So good evening. It's May 6th, 7 PM. I'm sorry.
May 6th,
May
okay.
1st. I'm reading May 6th for the special town meeting. May 1st, May Day. The agenda will be to cover the items for the special town meeting. That's on May 6th. And then any articles that have supporting information that's been presented to us for the annual. Before we get started, I know there was some discussions last week around the vocational school. Mr. Rossetti, I do see that you're here this evening. I didn't know if there's anything that you wanted to provide in additional context to the committee for anything last week.
Sure, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I did drop off budgets, but my understanding is they didn't get delivered to everyone until the meeting last week. That's when you got.
They were emailed to us.
Yeah, and we did, I think we had them, we did have them
Actually, I
last
dropped them
Wednesday
off
at the
the
meeting.
editor's office on the, I believe it was 12th.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. There was some discussion last week. I don't think it was anything earth-shattering, but I didn't know if anybody that's here tonight had any questions that Mr. Rossetti may be able to address for us.
I know one of the issues is the issue of decreased number of students. Part of the reasoning for that is that Saugus has a brand new school, and some of the Saugus students who might go to the VOC have decided to go to Saugus schools. They're staying in town.
So just I guess a follow-up question with that for you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, of course.
So you're saying that there are not Saugus students that are on a waiting list to try to get into the vocational?
No, there are still students on the waiting list.
So how would that affect, like the way you presented that is saying that there may be less students that want to go to the VOC and that has some relation to the number decreasing?
There are fewer students going. There are still students on the wait list. Saugus's quota on the, for students is approximately 19. We have something on the order of about 37 that usually go. So we usually pick up about 20, but that's from spaces that other cities and towns did not make use of. This year, and for the last couple of years, that hasn't been the case. So we're seeing less and less students who are able to go.
So just, I guess, like, for clarification, since he's here, Mr. Chairman. So I'm just trying to understand what you're saying, so that the less students that want to go doesn't have anything to do with the amount of students that we have going, because there's still a wait list.
There is still a wait list. The wait list is less.
And then, you know, the other thing just trying to understand what you're saying is that the other communities that don't use all their slots are now using all their allotted slots.
Yes.
So if we go and check with the other communities, whatever they're allocated, they're maxed out on their allocation, so there's no additional unused slots from any other community.
Yes. According to what I was told about an hour ago by the principal, the only city that, or the only other town that had open slots as of right now was Winchester, and they had 2 spots. So the other cities and towns are making use of their spots before they weren't.
So is there, I guess, a chart that has like each proportion to each community, what they're allocated? And all that, like, that's what, Wendy and I tried to look for that, we just never could, right, find that really.
I can certainly get that for you.
Yeah.
You're looking for what the available number of spots is for each city and town?
Yeah, I guess like how, I imagine there's a formula for that too, that decides how many seats are allotted for each of
Well,
the 12
we couldn't find anything in
communities.
writing, we looked at the original agreement that goes back, you know, a few decades or whatever, and there's nothing in there that talks about that. And that's sort of, I think, what you're just trying to find out, because obviously something's changed, and, you know, maybe this is some of it to me, but I think I said before, I don't think there's any nefarious, but there's clearly, from having an average of 196 students to now having 122 in a short period of time, there's definitely something that's drastically changed.
Yeah, it sounds like based on just the sheer numbers, if we're, as a community, allotted 19, in potentially 3 years, we could see our number diminish even more down to the 80 range, if we're only using that, the 20-seat quota per year, or 19-seat quota per year, it'd be like 70.
So for me, all that's great, like I have to see something in writing so that we understand what the allocation is, what's proportion, you know what I mean, so that we understand how,
Yeah.
you know, we went from 196 to, you know, to 222, which technically, if it's 19 we're all allocated, 19 times 4, say 20 times 4, you're talking about less than 80, we're gonna have less than 8, we're gonna be at less than 80 students pretty quickly, if that's all, you know, factually true.
Yeah, and if you just hear the kids talking, it seems like there's, just from talking to the kids at the fields, there's more than 20 kids that wanna go there every year.
Oh, no, there's a wait list, they call my
Yeah.
office all the time.
Potentially, that could be the case. However, with the new school, you're picking up 400 seats, so Saugus would get a percentage of that,
Yeah.
so it would increase the numbers that would be available.
Yeah, and I think just to
So for
Scott's
me,
point,
right, yeah,
it'd be great to understand like how we come up with whatever the allotment is per community,
Yeah.
per school year.
each year,
We kinda
and,
start from
and
that.
I think to actually have a document, right, for the finance committee, for the community, to see how many students are coming from each district each year.
Yeah.
Then there's a way that it's transparent, right, so that if somebody's on a wait list, I guess that's the other question, is how do people come off a wait list? Because when I spoke to somebody, one of the officials up there, they explained to me that they changed how they do the wait list. And that was like, I think, last year. And it seemed how that wait list change, it somehow had a negative effect, I think, on the town for Saugus.
Right.
Okay.
So I don't know how they,
Yeah, if you
what
could
the
just-
policy is with that. And where that is in writing, we don't have any documents that say this is how, so if you have, you know, 5 extra spots open, how are those 5 extra spots, are they divided up to 5 communities, or do they go to whoever's preferred? Or do they go off an assessment test? No, you know what I mean, that's, I guess, maybe, if you know
Okay.
that.
I do have something I can read to you, I
Sure.
can get it to you. It says Northeast Metropolitan.
So, just for clarification, what is it that you're referencing?
This is how they determine the number of seats.
No, what document is that? Because we don't have that document. Is
You
that-
don't have this yet, no. This is just something that I got this evening from the school.
But what I'm saying is, who voted on that policy? Is that a change in policy? Is that something that
No.
the 13 communities voted on?
No, this isn't a change in policy. This is part of the original agreement,
Okay.
okay? So what it says is Northeast Metro Voc allocated apportionate seats by city or town based on the number of students, based on annually according to the ratio of the town's current
8th
12
graders.
through, 9 through 12 enrollment as compared to the total grade 9 through 12 enrollment in the 12 communities. So basically what they do is they say, okay, who do you have in high school in your city or town? So they would go to Saugus, to Melrose, to Wakefield, wherever, and say, how many students do you have? Whatever the total for the 12 communities, that's 100%. Then they would say, okay, what percentage is Saugus, Wakefield, whatever community? And your percentage would be something, 10%, whatever it may be. The total number of students that you can have based on the available space is 325 students. So if you get 10% of that, you get 32 students, okay?
So based on that,
Yeah.
that percentage, we're only allowed 19.
Right,
As a
we're at
percent.
approximately 5.7%,
Okay.
okay?
Mr. Chairman, through you, one other question maybe is that just looking at who's enrolled in Saugus High School or who is in 9th through 12th grade that resides in Saugus? Like, does that factor in kids who go to the prep or St. Mary's? Like, do they factor into our equation? Or is that excluded?
I believe it's the public school,
Okay,
okay? It's not taking into account if someone goes to a private school. They ask, what is the number of
That's
students in town?
Yeah, I
I
know,
mean, yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a discussion for this
No,
forum, but it just seems like a flawed overall, right, because all the communities involved have kids that don't necessarily go to the public school in their community. Yet they're of that age, so they're still part of that overall population, at least in my mind.
Yeah. It's, I mean, somebody explained it before, and I don't, this is, sort of new or something, but that it was based on an 8th grade population at one point, but I don't, that was a few years back.
And that would
But it
almost
sounds like
make
it's
more, that would almost make more sense.
Well, because you're not choosing, someone in 11th grade can't go to the voc, right?
Right, and you can't, 8th graders are still in that decision-making process if they're gonna,
Yeah.
where they're gonna attend high school and for whatever their reasons may be.
Somebody from the voc years ago explained it to me that it was based on whatever 8th grade population is
so.
throughout the town, and it sounds like that this is different than that. So I don't know, I think we just, it's better for us to all know, and then we know, because we're gonna only be doing, having less than 80 students, right? That's all we're allocated at 19.
Right.
To me, I'd wanna see, for transparency purposes, I guess for the communities, how many spots are going to each community. Right, because I think someone here looked at the chart last week, it showed Revere jumped up considerably, right, over, and not just money-wise, but student-wise. So how, and I think one other community. So how is that, how is it, did they have a larger population? Who's calculating that data each year? And where, you know what I mean, there should be a form that comes with the budget that says, that's what the town and the finance commission require, is a form that shows what the population is when they determine it for each community on whatever the criteria is, and then how many they were allotted and how many were actually admitted. Then you're gonna know what the transparency of it. And then how many extra spots there were and how those were distributed.
Right. So if Winchester's got 2 extra seats from this year,
Yeah, so,
that's those-
that's a good question, right? So Winchester has 2 extra seats, how are those distributed?
That's a good point. I didn't even see that.
Basically, it says, seats shall be redistributed using the same formula that they determine the number of seats.
But if you have 2 students,
2 students.
and you have
which
12 communities, who
Yeah.
gets the seats?
Yeah, I imagine it's based on the biggest percentage if it's that number. But I can get you an
So-
answer for that.
But you understand what I'm saying, that with the transparency, if we know when they take a snapshot of what the population is at that time
For 2.
Yeah.
of students, because it doesn't make sense, I think even the chairman makes a good point.
Once you're there, you can only decide between anything with the animal stuff
Yeah.
Yeah,
or anything with the agriculture.
so Mark, I think you make a good point, because the issue of like, because it was always explained to me in the past from past administrators there, that they based it on an 8th grade population, because those are the people applying.
Right, and that would,
For the formula, this is saying, what he's reading is saying 9 through 12. I mean, if you're in 11th grade, I don't think you can go to the vote,
No,
correct?
yeah.
So it's almost sort of like flawed if that's the form, how they're using it, but if that's what they're using, then at least we should be able to see that with the budget that gets
Right.
sent over.
and I mean, if you're gonna use multi-class aggregate, maybe it should be in grades 8 through 10.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe even 8 and 9, because
Very
you
few 9th
transfer
graders
in,
are taking that.
you can transfer, it's my understanding you can transfer in at the 10th grade, but not the 11th grade.
Right, but 10th is very small, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, there has to be an open seat.
Yeah, no, totally understand, yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, maybe just a bit of advice, right? So maybe we put these in like an email to Mr. Rossetti, right? Like the
Yeah.
things we'd like to have answered, and then that way, it's like, this is what we want, this is what we'd like you to answer, that way you don't have to remember all the stuff we're saying to you.
Yeah, and
So
we
maybe
have
we
a
can get that.
document.
We have a document, and then you can come back to us with, those
Sure,
open
be
questions.
glad to.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah, obviously, I'm sure you're in the same situation. We're obviously want to advocate for as many students from Saugus to be able to go to the vote if that's what they choose to. Obviously, it's, concerning if we're went from 100, average of 196 students to now 122, and based on what you're saying, the formula is now 19 kids a thing, very quickly, we're gonna end up with less than 80 students at the school.
Yeah,
And then you have other communities, is their population really growing in Revere and I think Chelsea or wherever you guys pick? Is it growing in that thing, and like, so that we can see it, right? And then see how much it's growing. And if that's the case, then, the allocation's obviously changing.
We're
significant.
definitely, we're growing too. I mean, I think we know from our own schools that we're busting at the seams within our own 3 buildings at this time.
Yeah,
Okay, no, that's great,
One
so,
of the things that was proposed this year, and it still hasn't been decided, was to go to a complete lottery system, where what they would do is they would take the entire grade 8 population and say, okay, everyone is eligible, throw their names in a hat, pick out however many is your allocation, 19, those 19 kids get to go. If one of those kids doesn't want to go, you pick another number, okay?
so the way it is now, right, is that the vocational school, good or bad, gets to choose
Yes.
through, whether kids are absent or late for school or have disciplinary issues.
Not discipline.
No.
It's not allowed anymore.
Anymore, okay. So if they're absent or they're, whatever, unexcused absences, right, or tardiness and all that, that's one of the criterias they use. So, so good or bad, but I think that's
Yeah.
the idea of like, is that a fair criteria? If somebody has some kind of issue that went on and, they had a parent thing or such, some kind of issue that affects them to be able to get into the school, but then they can't leave Saugus district to go to the vote, but like you said, maybe the lottery, I don't know, but.
I have a question, when did that change percentage, the way you calculate it now versus the percentage? You're saying you're taking the whole percentage, when did that
Well,
change?
that hasn't, that's in the legislature right now.
Oh, so that's how they've always done
The
it.
issue of a pure lottery.
No, you're saying
It's
that
a
they
rabbit
take a
hole.
percentage of all the high school kids, and that's how you come up
Well,
with 5.something.
It's 5.719 students is the question.
That's part of the amount.
Reverse that, what does that come out to, how many students total will be in a minute each year?
These 325 is available. And 19.
Yeah.
So there's 325 students that are being admitted into this
yeah,
year.
it comes out to 18 and a half students.
Can I ask one a question?
Yeah, of course.
Why doesn't the vocational school administration come down to the finance committee and present their budget? They did for the past, since it's been open, it seems.
It's
Couple
something,
of years.
I think before I got
Yeah.
on, I think before I got on the committee, it was something that was a common practice. I think they've been available in the way we've handled it, similar to
It seems
this.
there's a lot of questions, and if somebody was there, if they were, their administration was there, those could have been.
Yeah, it's definitely something we can take under advisement. And I think it's,
I think, not the thing, but I think the struggle is it's sort of like our own, and I think we talked about this at one of the meetings, it's sort of like our own school district budget. It's a bottom line budget, they send us a bill, and then they get the money and they do what they want with the money, because that's the way it works. It's the same as once we allocate money to the Saugus School District, you can't tell them how to spend it, and I
Oh,
think.
I realize that, but it seems like since it's been open up until the past couple of years, they used to come in every year, present their budget.
I think the last time they came in, they said they needed an operating budget, and this isn't a slight to the thing, but they were putting money in sort of like a reserve fund, and then used the reserve fund to have a feasibility study that was paid out of operation, that they told all the communities they're gonna use for operations. So I think that the idea is, I think sort of, everybody sort of got tired of, what are we asking questions about, because it's not, there's not much you can do. And I think years ago, if you remember, because you've been around, is they would vote no on the budget and think like somehow, or a past manager's administration, you've been here, they would only fund half of the vocational money, and like as if the rest of the money is gonna disappear, and then we'd have to have cuts and have town meetings in the middle of the year
That's all I'm just saying.
to cut the budget and transfer money, or take it out of free cash or stabilization, which is the wrong use
right,
of
and
money.
I think ultimately from where we sit as a community, and maybe I'm speaking off the cuff, and Scott, you've already said this, so we wanna be able to have the most amount of kids of
It's a
the amount
phenomenal
of kids that
education.
wanna go there, we wanna make sure that they have that opportunity, so we wanna make sure that we're put in the best position to do that, and that's, aside from what the finance piece of it's gonna cost, right? Like, so,
So you're right, the issue I think I raised, that it's just, but I have no idea, I guess we, you know, if like,
Yeah, this is
a
all
great
great information.
suggestion, we would send an email and
Yeah.
ask for something that's in writing. I had a meeting set up with an administrator there, I think twice, to get the information, and then they canceled. So that was last year, and the year before, I think when we were voting on everything, I tried to get, I said, you know, show me in writing what the policy is. We're gonna have a meeting, and then they canceled both
so we'll do that,
times.
we'll take the action.
But I think that the point is that we had an average of 196 students, it's 122, and it sounds like what he's talking about, we could be down to less than 80 pretty quickly at what our thing is here. So, you know, that obviously, you know, that's something's changed, and like he's explaining, Mr. Rossetti, is that other communities are now using their full allocation of students. So that's something we don't wanna see, right, on a piece of paper that says, this is what the official enrollment is. You know, which I think would be great to come with the budget, and then, like he said, maybe they wanna come in and ask more questions if it doesn't line up.
We'll be glad to come in and speak. I offered to come to the meetings and was told don't.
Yeah, no, I think what we'll do is, and we're gonna take you up on that offer, Mr. Rossetti. I'd ask the committee to, any questions we have, choose the email chain that we have, and then we'll compile it. into one
Hopefully we'll
email
have better
and send it
luck
over.
than the meetings I had
Sure.
set up.
Yeah, we'll do that either through Kenny or George.
One other
Or
quick
myself,
point.
I'll work with those guys.
This year, applications to the school, the acceptance letters went out, I believe, yesterday. This year, we have 1,200 applicants for 325 seats.
Wow.
That's the highest number we've ever had.
So do you know how many applicants from Saugus that are?
Accepted,
No, how many applicants from Saugus?
Oh, I don't have the exact number, but I can get it.
So this is, I mean, not the
Yeah.
thing, but this is contrary, like, at the beginning, when you're saying more kids wanna stay in Saugus, and there's less people
Yeah.
wanting to go to the vote, this is, what you're saying is completely now different than what you started out by saying.
No,
So it sounds like there's
number
more
of-
applicants and more
Yeah, I think we'll
people
have
that
to-
wanna get
I
into the
think the-
vote, which I would assume is including
Saugus
Saugus.
applicants is down. I believe it was something in the 120 range this year.
So that's good information to have as well, in writing, so it's. So there's 120 students, you
Holy
think,
crap.
that are trying to get
20 seats.
19 spots, you know, or 18.5,
Something like that.
you know,
It's harder to get in there than a Catholic school.
than Harvard. I think Harvard's got like a .00 something.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
Well, I appreciate you coming in tonight, Mr. Rossetti.
that's
and
helpful,
something.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
All right, so with that, what I'd like to do is, I think what I'll do is I'll read through the, the articles that have financial implications to them, and we can open up a discussion and go from there, if there's a vote needed and whatnot. So Article 1 for the special town meeting is not anything financial. Article 2 does have a financial piece to it. It's to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money to be transferred to the stabilization fund. And then what we've got here,
So, yeah, we're looking to appropriate $1 million out of free cash to the stabilization fund, and that's, you know, helps us keep pace with, you know, approximately 10% of the operating budget in line with our financial management policies.
Okay.
You can always put more for sure, but that's something that we do annually, and that's something that the S&P looks at. I think we have a surveillance call, next month, next week.
we go each individually, I can't
Yeah.
remember, we do each
Yeah.
individually, right? That's what I thought.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Chair will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, okay, so Article 2 would pass. Article 3 also has financial implications. So to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money to be transferred to the OPEB trust, other post-employment benefits trust.
So, yeah, this would be looking to, from certified free cash, $1 million to allocate into the post-employment benefits trust. And this is a trust that the town meeting, the selectmen, finance committee, and town meeting has supported creating. And then, and we've been funding that. Obviously, this is one of the in our financial reports that is recognized as, I think what we talk about, we have around 140 million.
132 right now.
132 million in, you know,
Liability.
yeah, unfunded liability. Meaning that's for post-employment benefits, and that's something that is always looked at in our financials and when they look at, you know, our financial health. So this is a continued effort to do that, and as we planned and talked about it, the retirement had a little bit of a dip for funding this year, so we're allocating that into the OPEB as planned and talked about over the years.
Make the motion.
Chair will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
And just, you know, obviously, some of you knew the backup information is all there. Kind of talks about the trust that was set up and the balances and whatnot.
Article 4, I believe, is gonna be tabled, is that right?
No.
Okay. So Article 4, excuse me, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money to be transferred to the stabilization fund for the Northeast Metropolitan Regional Vocational School Construction Project.
So, as everyone's aware, hopefully, and if not, I'll explain it again, but and the vote representative, Mr. Rossetti, is here for the school committee, the regional school committee, but a project was voted, they went to the general election and supported, and now we have to figure out about funding, because now we're in a situation where, and we can talk about all the, you know, good or bad, but I think that the project is well supported and it's much needed, 100% for the project. But the issue now is that people took a vote without having a source of funding in the community. It would be like us trying to build a school or a fire station and have no source of funding, and then just getting a bill to pay for it. And so what we decided and what we talked about through finance committee, the board of selectmen and town meeting supported, is we created a stabilization fund targeted specifically for the vocational school assessment.
Okay.
Relation to that, so we've been putting a little bit of money together each year, and we're looking to put $1 million into out of certified free cash into the stabilization fund, and it talks about what the balances are there. I think we have,
Just over a million.
yeah, just over $1 million. I mean, it's not a lot of money. It's, you know, basically, I think, you know, obviously south of what an annual payment would be, but I think that it helps us, and it looks very good financially for us to be able to, if we needed to in a year or we have any issues, to be able to draw on that to make the payment if we had to, you know, financial issues. And it also keeps us mindful that hopefully at some point, the Board of Selectmen and others will support putting this out for the public to support paying for the vocational school. Because it's gonna be, you know, obviously an expense, and it's over the next 30 years, which is a whole nother, I think, you know, Mr. Rossetti talked about the different allocations of students and how the budget changes. Well, the same thing that has the same effect on the assessment as well for the capital.
Mr. Manager, too,
Yeah.
just to clarify, so if, in order to draw on this fund, it has to come back to finance committee, right? So you
Correct.
couldn't just decide tomorrow that you're gonna take $1 million and put it somewhere else, right?
Correct, so you'd have to have an article, and then you'd have to go through the finance committee as well as town meeting.
Right, and have it voted on, okay.
To take it out and use it for that purpose. So that's the purpose it's for, and that's the only purpose it could be used for when town meeting votes it.
Okay,
So, you know what I mean, we wouldn't be able to say I'm gonna use it for buy a pickup truck. That's why it's a targeted stabilization. And it creates a public discussion, and I think those are the checks and balances of municipalities, so that you, spend the money in the right places. Years and years ago, I think back when I was actually in the police department, they funded a, contract through like stabilization. It was like the biggest mistake they ever made, but there was this political pressure and there was no money and, not the right use of money for sure. And that's, from that day, I probably were already on track for that, but it just continued to be a financial disaster, the way we used it, financed and used monies inappropriately.
All right.
I'll make a motion.
The chair will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excuse me, so Article 5 is to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for purchasing various equipment for town departments, including the payment of costs incidental or related thereto, and to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, or to take any action relative thereto.
So we would look at source of funding, borrowing for this. And this is, we just lumped everything together. Sometimes we have separate articles, but politically, we find that it's, I think, better to put them all together, because then, it's, we're not arguing over, the parking clerk's vehicle, new vehicle, because he writes so many parking tickets, and, who should get the new vehicles. But annually, we at least get 4 cruisers, sometimes 5. There's 4 here. Generally, they take almost a year to get. It's unbelievable. I think we just had the new ones that we ordered last May came online probably about a month ago, last month.
Yep.
So we always try to keep up with that, and we talk about the rotation of vehicles and how that works. DPW has asked for a bunch of replacements, and then the ones that they're replacing would be, either auctioned or they don't have value. But they'd be replacing, they're looking at, this municipal department vehicle, utility 1, DPW highway, looking at a flatbed spreader, DPW highway department pickup, sidewalk tractor, a 5-ton dump, another 5-ton dump truck. And those are the ones we've had, I think, 3 go down this year, that are, very old, that they use for the winter in storms, so they're looking at 2 of those. I think we ordered 1 or 2 last year or the year before. We still haven't even received them. I think it's been over a year.
Yeah, that one.
We got 1? Okay, so 1 came in out of the 2 after the winter's over. We're trying to stay ahead of that. DPW director is looking in the Parks Department for a new trash truck. So we have a trash truck now that is past its useful life. We had to do some significant repairs to get it up and running, and we use that for the different events we do and to pick up a lot of the parks and playgrounds on a regular basis. That's in need of a new vehicle. A dump truck for the parks as well, a water compressor truck, and a sewer dump truck as well.
And Mr. Manager, the numbers on the side, is that the existing vehicle numbers that they're gonna be replacing? Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah, and then the money, those are obviously estimates. If we
Yeah.
don't use it, we don't borrow it, but we just, have enough in there so we can make sure that we're able to purchase those things.
Well, I have a question, because first of all, my husband just bought a pickup truck and it didn't cost $110,000. And what are we buying, a Denali?
No, they don't, they buy work vehicles, so they're not vehicles that are used on personally.
My husband's is a work vehicle.
Okay,
So does that come with a salter and a plow?
yes.
And also, why would a dump truck cost less than a pickup truck? That makes no sense to me.
Again, these are
A dump
estimates.
body is more money than
Yeah.
a straight body.
You know, more background on it?
I don't, they were all quoted from the dealerships.
So these are all plow, plow and sander setups
yeah.
as well.
I My husband has all that. And his did not cost that kind
Does
of
he plow
money.
for the town? Would
No,
you
he
like
does
to?
not.
All right.
He
We'll
plows
sign him up.
privately.
And the 2 fire trucks don't go on this list?
They've already been ordered.
That's already-
That's from,
okay.
a
I believe we borrowed that last year. Well, one-
couple years ago.
So obviously it's
I
my
think
first
one was
year,
last
so.
year and another one was 3 years ago.
It's been a while.
I think the pumping was 3 years ago. and
It just
the
takes
last was last
So
year,
I-
vice
maybe
versa.
what you see, there's some of these trucks probably have different setups as well.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I'm thinking is, yeah.
We just go by what they give us for, the quotes from the dealerships.
I would like to have 3 quotes from 3 different dealerships because these numbers don't seem right to me. At all.
Well, they're all, we get them through, state bid, state.
I know,
No.
but I, I don't know where they're pulling these numbers from.
Super Duty, regular cab, and chassis, I don't know, 14,000 payload package. 7.3 V8 engine. This one's a 6.6. Same tonnage. 10-speed automatic.
How long ago did your husband buy his?
He hasn't even received it yet. That's how new it is.
Let us know when he gets it. Could be 2 years.
I'm just telling you.
9-foot steel.
And that's not the price he paid. And he got plow package, sander.
And they purchase stainless steel on their,
This one has a hoist
on
on
their,
it.
things there for the sand.
Well, there's
For the rock.
F-150s, F-250s, and then they all switch.
One of them, I think, has a hoist. I don't know if they both have a hoist.
So they have hoists on them as well. Your husband probably doesn't have the hoist.
No, I don't know about that, but I can't imagine that costs $10,000. I know you can get a Denali for $89,000.
No, these are all
When I got out of
Fords.
school, I
These are
thought
all
a pickup
Ford.
truck at 26,000 was a lot of money.
Look at Scott Brown used his, right through the election.
Got all the light bars.
Yeah, so they have light bars and all that. I don't know. I mean, we just go by what they get for the
Yeah,
quotes.
I know, but
We don't
that
make any-
just, I just have a hard time
Chassis tool.
absorbing that number.
Hoist
I might
with
be in the wrong- I
hydraulics.
might be in the wrong business.
Yeah, it sounds like they have the chassis, the cabinets on the side and the bodies and all that. They're work
Okay.
vehicles.
I think you should go back in without being a municipality. You probably get a better price, cause they just seem, everybody's
you-
gonna
Well,
give
comes
that
they
the
have to get
check.
it off the state bid list.
No, believe it or not, they
Yeah.
they
Can't
save a ton of money.
negotiate a private deal, you have to take
You have to take what it
what's
is.
on the bid list.
I liked it better when we did them as separate articles. Because then you could pick and choose which ones you thought were more important.
Well, just a reminder, so that nobody gets things, Tommy and FinCom is recommending and voting on the appropriation, not on the actual vehicle.
No, I know.
You know what I mean?
I know
I think
that.
that sometimes, that's what happens is if people get, well, I don't want this, so-and-so's in the water department, and this is what used to go on years ago, and I don't like that person, so I'm not gonna support that vehicle.
Yeah, we
Or
didn't,
I'm not gonna support a raise for that,
well, yeah, we didn't do that.
yeah. Town meeting.
Might have happened a long time ago, but hasn't happened.
All I can say is whatever the best prices are that we get, that's what we do. We ask them to put backup documents to it.
Yeah.
And then we put the documents that we get actual quotes from the dealerships. And if they're less or more, then we have to make adjustments, but, whatever it is, I mean, I just, I don't know this one specifically, but the vehicle trucks in particular are, like, for some reason off the charts, like money-wise. It's just gone off, like you said, 90,000. Who ever heard of it? You could buy a house a couple of years ago for 100,000,
Yeah.
10 years ago, right?
All right, any further discussion? Motion?
Motion.
Chair will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? All right. Article 6. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of money for the purpose of repairing or replacing town water hydrants and valves, including payment of costs incidental or related thereto. To determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, or taken action relative thereto.
So we've done this in the past, and this is sort of another article. We're looking at $300,000 from certified free cash, but this is for the water division, and this is an ongoing, preventive maintenance and infrastructure repairs and replacing of failed hydrants around the town, as well as the valves. Everybody knows we're getting better and better at it, but a lot of the valves have never been exercised, and we do that now, but a lot of them are, 50 years old, and so when we have water breaks, they go to shut a valve off, and they have lists of ones that need to be updated, so this is just part of that program that we have, long-term, year after year, and we just look for funding.
And Mr. Manager, is this work,
Spit it out.
okay, so it's not all done by our own,
No, this is definitely outside vending, so we put out bids, and then
Yep.
somebody is awarded the bid, and you put out, say, you're gonna do 10 of these or 20 of these, and the companies bid on it, and then we oversee the work, or
Yep.
DPW does, and complete it, and then we look at each year to do a project, just like we do with the paving of the roads or the replacement of water or sewer pipes.
Okay.
It's stuff that, quite frankly, was never done for 50 years, and we've been doing it, over the last 8 or 10 years, and trying to, improve the systems.
Mhm.
A lot of it gets discovered when you have some sort of a break and they go to shut valves off, and then you say, geez, the valve snapped, and then they have to replace it right then and there.
You're chasing a mile away.
Well, it costs more money to do it when it's on site and it's in the middle of the night to replace a valve, because you can't, it's stuck. So this is a way of spending the money up front and improving those things so that you don't have emergencies and things on the fly.
Okay.
Do we know how many we've replaced so far?
I don't, but we can get that info.
Yeah, I don't,
I was gonna have Brenda
Or
come tonight.
and how many this will, this number will replace? Do we know?
well, I think it's more along the lines, Mr. Chairman, as the manager discussed, they have an ongoing list and they prioritize, and then they'll go out and say, I'm gonna do 10, but whether, in recent years, they've been able to afford 7 or 8 because of the price.
Okay.
The cost of the hydrants and valves and the labor to do the work has increased, so.
So they put they'll put a spec out, and then, like, say, we're gonna do, they'll figure out an estimate from who helps them put the specs together, say, well, if you do 6 of them, it's gonna come out to, $250,000 to $300,000, and then they'll put that bid out, so that they can, it's in that range, but I think, like Wendy said, the cost of the labor now and even material is, everything's higher, so it's we do a lot of bidding, and making sure we, get the better price.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Chair will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Article 7, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for the design and construction of capital improvements to the town sewer system, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto. To determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing from the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust or otherwise, and to take any action relative thereto.
So this is like what we do annually, and this is a borrowing, in the amount of, 2.7 million plus. As it rounded up, I think it's 730,500. And this is what for engineering and design, as well as,
Construction.
what's that?
And construction.
And construction, so it's all rolled up, and this is under, I think we get this under the program, right, the 2%?
Yep, it's through the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust, and we have a new application for Subsystem 2, which is over in the Ironworks area, Lothrop, Seville, Riverbank, or Riverview, and a couple of other streets. And each year, the DPW was to work with the engineering firm, to prepare an application, submit it to the trust, and we get on what's called the intended use plan. And so that sort of maps out for them, everyone that they've accepted their application, and they can start their planning financially for what their borrowing needs to be. And we were approved for an application of $2,484,995. And then we
The
plan,
design work.
we plan an additional $250 for design, which is not part of that application. The SRF does not, the state revolving
We have
fund
to
does
pay
not
for it.
fund that.
We have to
So we
borrow.
have to do an obligation borrowing.
So we usually do design in 1 year, and then the construction happens in the next year for each system. And this is just to kind of explain, we, obviously, people that know have been around, we ran into major issues with the sewer. We were pumping raw sewage out into the Saugus River for years, through the pumping station every time we had flooding, and that's from I&I, the infiltration inflow into, like, stormwater, getting into our sewer system, right, that we're, one, paying for to be processed, and, you know, so that we went under an ACO, administrative consent order with the DEP and the Attorney General's office. And we've been very successful at that, but they evaluated all these substations throughout the whole town and then picked, like, I think it was like 9 of the worst areas, so we've gotten through that. But now there's, you know, that was almost 15 years ago, right, pretty close to 15 years ago that they evaluated this stuff, actually longer, I think it's almost 20 years that they did the evaluation, so we've moved on and now we're a few years out of doing substations that weren't the worst, but obviously still had the issues, but those are even now 20 years older. So we wanna be able to get through all that stuff, this is the stuff that people won't recognize this until I'm long gone, to say, oh, you know, we fixed water and sewer, that we never did for 50 years, but, I think, you know, this is something we're proud of, and I think that, the finance committee, town meeting, and the selectmen, and, you know, the public should be happy, because when you have problems with sewerage or water, you know, it's problematic if we're not fixing these systems over the years, and this is part of an ongoing system, and, like I think I said before, you know, we did a ton of work years ago, and no one ever went up in the rates in water and sewer, or at least sewer. The water was a little bit different, but, the sewer thing was like a big secret, and, you know, because it was the selectmen that had to vote on the rates. I think we've educated ourselves, and we're much more informed, and I think we look at things from a financial standpoint, to be able to fund these projects as well as water projects. And I think that this will benefit the town from, you know, decades to come, where you're not gonna have failing systems and, you know, disease and, you know, all kinds of, you know, DEP issues with sewage, you know, going into the system. These are all reporting requirements now that are much different than it was 20 years ago.
Any discussion? All right.
And again, this is part of the capital improvements that we ongoing do annually in the town.
And we have a motion.
Motion.
Chair will second it. All in favor?
Like,
Any opposed? No. All right. So Article 8, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for the design and construction of capital improvements to the town sewer lift stations, including the payment of costs incidental or related thereto, to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, or to take any action relative thereto.
So this is, you may remember, you may not, obviously some of the guys have been here for a while and ladies. The sewer lift stations, we did an analysis years ago, evaluating all our lift stations. And the lift stations, if you understand, if there's not gravity for the sewer systems, you have to have a lift station that helps, you know, move the material against gravity. And so these things need maintenance and repair. We had a company come in and assess and give us a plan. That was funded and supported by Finance Committee and Town Meeting. This is sort of moving in the same direction that we've done previously, I think last year and the year before, to do repairs on specific ones. We're looking at $2.3 million in a borrowing for this. And this is to look at, it looks like a force main on lamplighter lift, lamplighter, which is over at Hammersmith. We had an issue with that, I don't know if anybody remembers that just last year, where we had to dig everything up. And, you know, just to give you the background, just that's one example, but that's a infrastructure there that's not, it's inferior. That was a private development, if anybody remembers,
Yeah.
it's been around. And the town inherited that and took over these inferior systems from a sort of a company that I think must have went bankrupt or financially was insolvent, and the town ended up adopting it and accepting it, and then now the town owns that stuff. So little by little, we've been trying to improve those systems, and we had an issue I think it was last summer, and spent quite a bit of money on doing a repair. We had different issues, but that's something that the DEP, part of the plan with the DEP at the time, because of the issue, we committed to them that we would be back, and this would be repaired permanently in the summer. That's just one example, and I think there's also a Route 1 lift station. The pumps and controls will be replaced to accommodate higher flows.
All right, any discussion? Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Chair will second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for the design and construction of capital improvements to the town-owned bridges, including the payment costs incidental or related thereto, to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, or to take any action relative thereto.
So, this is Article 9, deals with town-owned bridges. And this is in more capital improvements. Again, I don't know what it says here, but we did do an evaluation and an assessment at an outside company of the bridges within the town. As you know, in the past, we've applied for grants and received grants for some of the bridge repairs throughout the town, and whenever there are grants available, we secure those. As well as if we are able to secure anything from here, then obviously we wouldn't borrow the money, we'd use proportionately with the grant. But this is looking at $680,000 in borrowing to facilitate some of the areas that have been identified that need a repair. Some of these are obviously Mass DOT and other agencies identified as well, and we have to stay on schedule and report to them the conditions of our bridges on a regular, basis, annually or biannually or every 2 years. So this is money going towards the capital improvements that the DPW is requesting, so that we stay in compliance with our bridges within the community.
Any discussion? Motion?
Motion.
Chair will second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So the two of the bridges, just so you know, they're in here,
Yeah.
Hamilton Street and Lisa Lane, two of the ones that are being looked at for this, this year. Part of the, what's that?
Highland Vine and Hamilton as well.
Oh, yeah, Highland.
Article 10, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for the planning and construction of drainage capital improvements, including the payment of costs incidental or related thereto, and to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by money or otherwise, and to take any actions relative thereto.
This is on drainage. If you guys remember, the town meeting voted and appropriated, I think $500,000 back in 2023. We identified, I think, within the town, we used an outside consultant that identified areas that have severe flooding and drainage issues. And this is money to continue that process, as well as looking at design and construction of some of these areas that have been identified. So what will happen now that we've evaluated, just like the bridges and the lift stations, each year they'll take on a couple of projects that have been identified, and they'll look for support in funding and appropriation with town meeting, and they'll move forward with those projects. and they're looking at $5.7 million.
Any discussion? And a motion.
Motion.
Chair will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 11, which is the last article to be presented at the special town meeting next week. To see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for designing, constructing, repairing, and replacing parks and playgrounds in the town, including payments of costs incidental or related thereto. To determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise, and to take any action relative thereto.
So this is, if you remember last year, each year we've done it, there was a couple of years that there's a lot of things going on and a lot of distractions. I think people didn't seem to be as supportive of doing parks and playgrounds. I think we're back on track to be supportive of that. Last year there was money allocated. Within the, I think probably within the month, 30 days, we'll be announcing some of those projects that are moving forward and working on surveys, designs, and whatnot. But this is another annual amount that would be allocated so that we can then look at those list of different projects that people have submitted interest and have, come to me, whether they're town meeting members, residents, in different neighborhoods and some of the parks and playgrounds so that we can continue to improve them. And, people will say, oh, $2 million. I think I talked about this before, people don't realize the cost of things now, if you want to put lights or cameras or whatnot, but it's about $1 million an acre to improve just for an area, not including cameras and lights and all that, so that's, so we're looking the same thing, another $2 million to try to get things moving, or continue to move on the list of projects that we have. And people say, well, why, we have 5, 6, every time and I always say this, if we fix a sidewalk on this side of the street, all the neighbors on this side call and say, why didn't you do this sidewalk? And then the neighbors that drive by say, how come my sidewalk? We're not able to do, a lot of these projects I'm overseeing, we have people that are overseeing these are a lot involved in them. We can't do 5 playgrounds at one time, so we have to sort of plan them out, do a couple a year, and then, get back at it, like we do with the water and sewer. You do design work, put your ducks in a row, get input, feedback, and then pay for the construction and whatnot when you go out the next year. So they take a little bit longer than what it was, 20 years or 30 years ago when everybody'd say, let's just buy some equipment, and we put equipment in the playground.
So I think that this is, as someone who has young kids, this is probably the biggest thing that I hear from
Most important.
feedback, right? And I think I agree with you on your assessment, right? Some people say like, oh, why are we fixing parks? Oh,
I want a firefighter.
Yeah, I want this, right? So I think it's nice to see an allotment each year that goes towards.
And we're gonna be having, we'll have a nice update in the next few weeks.
That's it, yeah, if we can get an
It's gonna,
update.
come out with, some of the projects that are moving forward, and I think that, the community will be pretty happy with people that support, parks and playgrounds and that have, been supportive of this. I will say that, when I took over as manager, this was a fight every time to try to even fix one playground.
Oh,
To get
you
money,
and I know where
to get
I-
money in
so-
the, to get money literally in the DPW, line item for maintenance of parks and playgrounds. It was a fight all the time. Every playground that I've done in the town has been a complete fight. There's not one that I haven't, because people want things, but they don't want them in the neighborhood. People get used to abandoned parks. And I say it all the time, when we do the projects that we do, they're some of the best playgrounds anywhere in the North Shore, that we have. You go down to Bristow, you go to the tennis courts that we have, you go to the Evans you guys remember, we did the Evans basketball courts. I use different language, but it was a battle at town meeting. Why do we have basketball courts? We have plenty of basketball courts in town. And the reality is we don't, but it's, no matter what it is, I think we had a dog park thing the other night. Everybody wants a dog park, but not in my neighborhood. And even the playgrounds, they tried to prevent a bunch of these projects from going forward in the past. And it becomes political and other reasons, but neighbors sometimes become complacent or they become comfortable with having abandoned parks that the town didn't maintain over the years. But again, you can't do everyone at one time. What we've done is try to improve little by little while we're doing other stuff, other things that are different needs and wants from the community. But we've done that with putting cameras up and lights and having the police monitor and then having a maintenance budget that we're able to fix anything that's broken or damaged or repair anything in those parks and playgrounds. So that's what we're looking to continue to do.
Brian and I would like to advocate for Stackpole to be
Yes.
It's on the list.
I just wanna throw a plug in that I think we have to think holistically from a sports standpoint.
Yes,
To think about like, we see a lot of the sports, like organizations raising their own money, fixing stuff, which is great, it's awesome, I think we have some great baseball fields now.
not a big, so just to give you, I've never been a big fan of that. I think that, and we're trying to change that philosophy. There was a whole bunch of years, and people have been around for a long time, where they just gave, the same thing, you're involved in the soccer. Give the soccer thing, and now you live in Saugus, I can't go down I can't get on the field at Herd Ave, or I can't go down and throw the ball around, or go down with a Frisbee at Anna Parker anymore, because the town gave all these parks and stuff around and said, oh, we don't have to pay for them anymore, we're just gonna let them deal with it. We're trying to get back to a thing where the town is maintaining, is fixing, fields and playgrounds and maintaining them. But the town should be responsible for these things, it shouldn't be private organizations that then lock the gates and use them for whatever, and it's not always, it's Saugus people that are using it, but it should be maintained by the town, in my opinion. Right, other people have different opinions, they had different opinions years ago. But I think that's sort of what I see, and I think that's what you're saying, the same thing.
Yeah, and I would say that I think that there's been some change in the Parks Department,
Yeah.
and I just had practice at Lyndhurst and it was in great shape.
Yeah.
So I think that we're moving in the right direction with that, so it's good to see.
We've had another
We've added some people.
body on that,
Yeah.
and I think we've increased the budget considerably.
Yep,
I wanna say that, I wanna say that we had, when I first started, I'm just trying to pull my memory, I think it was like less than $70,000 was in the budget for maintaining parks and playgrounds when I first started. Like 60,000 or something like that, and it's just not, it's the same thing as that. We get chapter 90 money, right, for doing roads, and that's a supplement, right? But people in Saugus, we have this philosophy that like every road, that's supposed to pay for all the roads. It's a supplement, you're supposed to still be allocating monies to fix roadways, and then the chapter 90 money is a supplement to do additional repairs and work. But we've always fallen into this philosophy, and I think that you're right, I mean, it's sort of, it's problematic because when organizations take over the town properties, they then feel ownership to them. So if the town wanted to use them, it's a problem. If they wanted to do something else that the community might want, you wanted to build a new school, or you wanted to use the Herd Ave playground, then it would be a political problem with Little League, right? Because they feel it's their field, even though it's the town's property.
Are we gonna have a list of what parks are gonna be done?
We will not, but we'll have a list of the parks that we're gonna be doing, the things that we're moving forward within the next few weeks.
And
From
some of
last
them
year's
on the north, the north and the west side of town?
Yes.
Thank you.
which is probably, I mean.
Yeah.
So I will be honest with you, so when I
No,
first
Stackpole,
got,
we're looking, I mean, I'll be honest with you, the Stackpole, those are, all these, we know which ones they are,
Yeah.
right? You got Stalker, you got, Stack, I mean, this isn't, you don't need to be a genius to figure this, you got Stackpole Field, you have Golden Hills, you have those parks, some of the schools that are vacant, we have to sort of consider whether it's, what we're gonna do with those before we put in, $1 million or $2 million, $1.5 million into a playground that we may do something else with the property, so I think, you try to get, the ones that are, used, on a regular basis, right? Anna Park is another one, so there's obviously those are on the list, and I think everybody knows that, but we can't do 4 of them at one time, and one guy is only so much bandwidth. And there's a lot going involved in it, there's a lot to put designs together, bring in architects, get feedback, get the engineering department, DPW, everybody to sort of weigh in on it and decide. Perfect example, we spent a lot of time on a dog park, right, from getting direction from, that was a priority by the selectmen, right? For me to look at a dog park, put a dog park. I took direction from a committee, they evaluated different things, and we have, it's a big problem. When I did the Evans School, it was a big problem. They didn't, remember they tried to stop that, and you just don't know why. I think that everybody has an opinion, but sometimes the benefit of, something that, like the rail trail, and I talked about this at the rail trail, I was on the board back then. People were showing up in herds, like all the people that lived, that border the thing, saying there's gonna be drugs, there's gonna be crime, there's gonna be assaults. And they didn't want it. They just didn't want it because it's probably to have privacy, right, with having a non-used railroad tracks. And by having the rail trail now, that was really a divisive project. We have an asset with the rail trail that's, I think, phenomenal. It's well used every day, everybody can see it, it's unbelievable. But it's the same thing with, I think, the parks and playgrounds, like when I did Bristol, I had neighbors coming out saying, it was an abandoned playground, why are we doing this? The Evans, people coming out saying, why can't we make this the cemetery, the people that live around there? They don't want the cars, they don't want the kids, they don't want the noise, the traffic. But like you have to do things, and I agree, you have to do things that are not only for each demographic, you have to do a little bit for older individuals that live in the community, you have to do stuff for the, people that have young families, or they're just starting here that have families. So you have to do different things and you're trying to do them all at once. I do think that there was an era for 20, 30 years or 40 years that we did only for certain demographics, and a lot of people, and you guys know, a lot of my friends and stuff moved out of the town because of that, because there was no priorities. My father passed away, a few years ago, but my father's like Stackpole Field, it's the same fence that when he was a kid, he was 80-something years old, born in, he graduated high school in '56. He said it's the same playground when I was there, same exact thing, nothing's changed in 56, back then it was 60 years. So I think that there is support, and I think that it's changed because we're letting the community, and I think the school, I get excited about this stuff, but the school vote and supporting a new school, even though it costs us on our taxes and there's an override, people were so afraid, a lot of people that were around for a long time, of allowing that to get to the residents, because the residents got to decide the direction of the town. And when they did that, people were shocked. Everybody told me he's gonna lose 3-1. They were hoping I'd fall flat on my face. People bird dogged me, all the meetings, and you were involved in it. And when that passed, it's like 71% of the voters. And we had a record, I think, amount of voters that came out for us. And it was like a huge percentage across the state compared to other debt exclusions for new schools, that you could tell that people want. If they have confidence in the government and the finances and that the money's being spent correctly, they believe in the community and they support trying to make improvements and investing in it. And I try to do my best to wrinkling, kind of quieting the noise and trying to focus on getting things done that are things like this, and the playground things is part of it. But I know the environment is now, it's just like the dog, but whatever project you come up with, you're gonna have a group of people that either don't want me to succeed, right, or don't want the park to succeed, or just want to be on a team to fight over it. We all know this, we live here. It's like a sport here. So this sort of way of doing things, I think, is a way of, at this point in time, is a better way of being able to get the things done without having all the pushback and trying to stop a project before it happens. But we'll have updates on this last year's stuff within the next few weeks.
Okay.
I think people will be really excited. I'm excited.
Good. Any further discussion from the committee?
I'll make a motion.
Chair will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
And just to add to it, right, I think that there's 100 people that have 100 different ideas of how something should be done. And I don't disagree, there's a million different ways you could go about it. I have a certain style and not everybody agrees with it, but what I can say is that I have a lot of accomplishments with the support of all of us, like being the finance committee, town meeting, residents, the selectmen, of working together, where they say it takes a village. And good or bad, we've been able to get a lot of things done, and we've accomplished a lot in the last decade that I think that people may not realize that. I think the people that have been around for 40 or 50 years understand that this is a big difference in the last decade than it's been in my lifetime, because I grew up here and was born here. So I just, I'm very thankful of the support from, elected and appointed officials being able to give support to move things like this forward. I know it's not as, as great as the water and sewer, but the water and sewer thing, believe me, when Wendy and I leave, in 10 years or 20 years from now, someone that takes over that's running this thing will say, this is unbelievable, what kind of shape the water and sewer is, this is incredible. Because this is the stuff people kick the can down and they don't fix things. We look at things long-term as administration, and we try to prioritize those things where other communities, I think, run into problems because they have turnover. And that's been I think the problem with Saugus, we've had a lot of turnover in leadership roles, and the schools suffer when you don't have a long-term superintendent, or a manager that's here long-term. And everybody can just, agree or disagree, have a different opinion, but that's the reality. Look at successful communities.
All right, it looks like there are, I know we're a little bit over an hour here tonight, but it looks like we have supporting documentation for 3 articles for the annual town meeting. I would love to try to get through these while we're here.
4, I think.
4, okay. Missed one.
4, and Mr. Chairman, you can take a vote on Article 4 as well. There's no documentation. We're just recommending indefinite postponement, since it's not.
Some of the stuff is in here as placeholders because we have a deadline to get articles in, and if you miss that deadline, they're no longer on a warrant. So we do this every year with certain things we don't need, and we IP them, which is an indefinite postponement.
All right, so with that, first one I see supporting documentation for is Article 3, which is to see if the town will vote to make supplementary appropriations to be used in conjunction with money appropriated under Article 2 of the 2023 annual town meeting during the current fiscal year, and determine whether the money shall be provided by transfer from available funds or to see what actions the town wishes to take in the matter.
So this is what we call our Article 3. It always ends up on Article 3 unless something gets messed up. I think one year was messed up in 15 years I've been around. But this is us trying to balance out some of the accounts, and I think we talked about this before. Legal, we have a lot of legal issues going on, so there's a appropriation of transferring money into legal to support that, and I think we talked about this within the budget. We're gonna be increasing that. So we look to bring everything into the black. I think the important thing is to look at, other than the snow and ice that we're funding through free cash, it's what, $364,000. If you look at our overall budget, we're over $100 million. That's pretty, small percentage of what we're making transfers for balance out at the end of the year. So again, a budget is just an estimate. Some people don't realize that, and I think Wendy and my team does a great job at trying to predict those expenditures. And this is, I think, a tribute to that, where, like I said, it's about $364,000, and a lot of it has to do with the legal fees, a huge portion of it. Other than that, the snow and ice deficit, we obviously budget that low for reasons with the DOR that we've explained before. And we generally, those are funded out of the free cash, where the other things are transfers within the budget from original Article 2. These are housekeeping matters.
Any discussion?
Make a motion.
The chair will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, Article 4, to see if the town will vote to supplementary appropriation to be used in conjunction with money appropriated under Article 6 of 23 town meeting. This is the one we'd like to indefinitely postpone.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
so we'll move that one.
Make a motion, you have to vote on it?
Yeah, actually, we do have to vote on that, so, chair will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you. Let's not skip right over that, Brian, so thank you. So the next one with supporting documentation is Article 5. And this is to see if the town will vote to make supplementary appropriations to be used in conjunction with money appropriated under Article 7 of 23 annual town meeting, the sewer enterprise, during the current fiscal year, and determine whether the money shall be provided by transfer of funds or to see what actions the town wishes to take in the matter.
So this is one of those articles, sometimes we IP and sometimes we don't, doing the accounting and looking at the balances. That we're looking to have $20,000 transferred in the sewer from salary to expenses, expenses to salary.
Any discussion from the committee?
So just so everybody knows, this is money that's already been appropriated. It's just a matter of moving from one
Just
line
one line
item
item
to
to another,
another,
right?
that we need, town meetings vote for that and approval.
Make a motion.
Chair will second. Excuse me. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. No. Oh, Article 8, that's the one I missed. Article 8, which is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money for the purpose of funding unpaid bills of a prior fiscal year.
Make the motion.
Okay, Chair will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. In, for those at home, it's a value of $12,942.19. And then the last article that we have supporting documentation for is Article 9, which is to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money from free cash identified as opioid settlement receipts received in prior fiscal years to be expended in accordance with Chapter 77 of the Acts of 2023, Section 9, Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53, Clause 4.
So this is just with the DOR, there's been an opiate settlement with funds that all the communities are receiving. There's a list on here, the backup information of the amounts that we've received. They seem to be coming in over the last couple of years. And this is what the DOR is recommending for us to put them into an account under this General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53. So that they're put into a special account, because when we were receiving it before, there wasn't any direction on what to do with those funds or where to store them, and then this is where we're following the guidelines.
So it's almost
Bulletin
like,
that was put out.
almost another account within the stabilization fund type of thing? Or
No,
is
it's
that-
just a separate account like
Okay.
this, for these settlement receipts.
Okay.
What's the use of that account?
So it's gonna be for, I think I talked about this at one of our meetings before, but generally there's money and federal money and whatnot that goes to these nonprofit organizations that specialize in this. They did this settlement, and each year we apply, we have different organizations within the town that use different grants. We have, if there's overdoses, we have police and fire, go out and knock doors with addiction coaches and people with resources and all that. And there's other things that go on within the community for education purposes, intervention, and, supporting recovery. But now they're giving it to the municipalities. They've been on a bunch of different webinars, and they have a monthly one that we're on. But I think, we're gonna be, I think good or bad is that I think it would be better if the organizations got the money or had some portion and they had to use it and direct it into the town. What I do notice, good or bad, is that those same sort of organizations are now soliciting to be part of different communities and to be, paid to help do all those things. But we've been in this for years. I've been in it for a long time, of monitoring it and being involved in a lot of those meetings. And it seems like every couple of years, they're always doing a new assessment of like what things you can do, and they spend all this money on studies, whatnot, and then the time you get to implement them, it's sort of the money's gone, and then it's 3 years later and they wanna 4 years later, they wanna do another assessment to find out what things would be actively working, so it's repackaged. But I think that with the direction, I think a lot of what I talked to other colleagues of mine, would be to, bring some, engage a company that would help us do what the other nonprofits and the grants that we've been attached to, when we were attached to grants with like Revere, Winthrop, for years, and regionally you apply for those, and then they have people that, within Saugus that, we do a youth risk behavior, assessment survey, we've done that. But I think that's gonna be, because we're not experts at this, you really need somebody to come in and do that, and I think it is challenging for communities, and that's why they're sort of setting up resources and webinars and educational things, because the town's not really in that business. And so they're pushing to engage companies, and then they would go out and get input like we've done before from all the different community and organizations to find out what the needs are, and what the high-risk behaviors are, and the recovery needs
Yeah.
are, and then those monies are being expended towards implementing some of those projects or programs.
Any other discussion on this?
I'll make a motion.
Chair will second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. I think that's, all that we have for supporting documentation for tonight. If they get, puts town meeting in a good position to vote on things on Monday's special town meeting. And then we've started to knock off some of the items for the annual. So with that,
Motion to adjourn.
Chair will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, meeting is adjourned.